Hello YouTube. Today I'm out with the new Vivo X200 Ultra along with its photography kit and the teleconverter lens. I'm mainly going to be focusing on this lens and this kit today, but of course we will touch on some other aspects of the phone. It's going to be the first in a series of videos. There's a lot to cover, but I think a lot of people are going to be trying to decide whether to get this kit or not, and hopefully after this video you will have a better idea. Okay, I've now switched over to the Vivo X200 Ultra, and as a general rule, if you can see my face, we're going to be filming on the X200 Ultra, and if you can see the phone, it'll be on the X200 Pro. We're at 4K 30, you can do 4K 60 as well. And what's nice with this photography kit, I've just screwed it into my selfie stick because it's got a 1/4-20 threaded mount. I don't have to use a phone clamp or anything, which is pretty neat. And this selfie camera finally has autofocus. I know the X100 Ultra did, but the Pros don't. So for me, that's new and that's very nice. We're at Bradgate Park, which is where I filmed my first smartphone comparison video with the X100 Pro and the S24 Ultra. And the reason is that there's a lot of deer living here. Last time I wanted to test out the zooms of the two phones and the results were a little bit disappointing. But now with this teleconverter lens, I think we're going to get much better results. So let's go try and find some deer and see what it looks like. The park is extremely busy today, but I finally found a secluded spot. I just want to give you an introduction to the photography grip, what features it adds and why you might want to use it. It is removable, as you probably know. It has a USB-C port to connect to the phone. It's not over Bluetooth or anything. So it just slots in, clicks into place, and once it's on, it's very sturdy. In terms of buttons, you get a zoom rocker up here, a 2-stage shutter button, a scroll wheel, video record button, and this button over here. I thought this was just going to be to show the battery percentage, but actually it toggles on and off the power bank functionality. So if you long press it, these lights come on, if you can see them, and the phone will start charging. But if you want to save some battery and your phone doesn't need charging, you long press it and the phone stops charging. Now I think by default, double clicking the shutter button opens the camera, yeah, but you can adjust everything the way everything works. So if you go into this settings menu up here, press more settings, then you've got a whole dedicated section that says professional camera grip. First you can select what half pressing the shutter does. It can be autofocus singular or autofocus continuous. I prefer singular, so you choose your subject, you half press it and it will lock that focal point. It won't continue to adjust it while the shutter is held down. That makes more sense to me. Double pressing the shutter, as you saw, we got it set to launch the camera, but you can also enter snapshot mode, launch the street photography camera, or you can have it do nothing if you don't want to press it by accident. Double pressing the video button, that's in Chinese, so I'm not sure what these two options do. Let's just try it. So if I double tap the video button, okay, it launches video mode and starts recording on the ultra wide camera. If I switch to Chinese option number 2, then it launches the video mode and starts recording, but it's on the 35mm. So there's your two options for the video button. Then you've got the dial, which can be set for exposure compensation, which is what I like. I leave it at that. You can adjust the bokeh in portrait mode, or you can adjust the shutter speed, the ISO, the white balance, or you can use it to manual focus if you are a masochist. So I've left it on exposure compensation. And so if I scroll one way, the exposure will get darker, and the other way will get brighter. For me, that makes the most sense. That is how I use the camera control button as well, but it's nicer with a physical control with some tactile feedback. So when you use the telephoto adapter, it just clicks into a second bayonet mount on top of the bigger bayonet mount, which is kind of funny. And sometimes a message pops up telling you to switch to teleconverter mode, but that doesn't always appear. There it is. So we can tap that. It will ask us to confirm and enter the mode, and everything looks normal. But if you try and shoot with it in the normal mode, obviously the ultra wide and the main camera will see the lens because it's massive. And if you switch to the 85mm, it will be upside down and it will be extremely shaky. So the telephoto extender mode is doing some serious compensation for the wobble, and it's also flipping the image. Then in this mode, you've got 200mm, that's the default. That's the 85mm plus the 2.35x magnification. Then you can do a digital 2x crop to take it to 400mm, or 800mm, or 1600mm. And obviously, the further you go, the less impressive the results are going to look. You also get video mode with a slightly different range of focal lengths. Got 200mm, 400mm, 600mm, and 800mm. And it lets you shoot at 4K up to 60 frames per second. No 4K 120, unfortunately, but I guess that's something to do with the stabilization it needs to apply. We do have an ultra stabilization mode, which zooms us in even further. But yeah, that's how the teleconverter works. So let's see what the results are like. Okay, so we've spotted our first deer. I've just taken some photos, but now I'm in video mode. This is 200mm. Moving into 400mm. Obviously it's quite hard to stabilize such a long lens. And it definitely doesn't focus as quick as when you don't have the adapter on. But I think you'll agree, if I can keep it steady, the visuals are pretty impressive.
It looks like, when you look up close where the antlers have fallen off, it looks really strange. Some more coming up.
Don't know why it keeps switching down to 1080p as well. I think a lot of my clips today will be at 1080p because that seems to be the default, and I'll see if I can change that in the settings. Yeah, you can. If you go into the settings, you can switch the default frame rate for all the different modes, including the telephoto extender. That's interesting. I think I found a bug here. If I go into the default resolution for the telephoto extender, you can see I've got 4K 30 highlighted, but when I go back out to the menu, it still says 1080p 30. Let's see what happens. It's at 4K 30 right now. If I switch to a different mode and go back to the telephoto mode, okay, it has changed the frame rate. It's just displaying the wrong frame rate. Here's a few shots without the telephoto converter. I'm using the built-in telephoto lens at the moment. So one other thing I want to test out with the photography kit is this zoom rocker. It doesn't seem to be remappable, so you can only use it for a smooth continuous zoom. You can't like quickly toggle between focal lengths. let's see how it does when we give it a go now. We're on the ultra wide right now, and here's, oh, that doesn't look too bad. It's not perfectly smooth, but it doesn't look bad. So I think it's pressure sensitive. Maybe not. I think it's just a continuous, yeah, it's always the same speed no matter how hard you push it. But I think it's just smooth enough to be useful. But you definitely get a lot more control if you use the on-screen wheel. You know, you can modulate your speed a bit more. But I definitely don't think the zoom rocker is useless. Alright, so let's have a look at some photos. They're in no particular order, but we are going to start with a 200mm shot, which is the native 85mm telephoto plus the 2.35x telephoto converter. And the first thing that stands out to me is the compression. This isn't a particularly close-up shot, but you still get some lovely blur to the background. And it looks pretty sharp. As you saw in the video section, the focusing can be challenging, and it looks like the image is more focused on the body of the deer rather than the head. But in any case, I think it's a pretty great looking shot. Colours look good. Now this one's at 800mm, so that's a pretty significant digital crop. But it's still looking pretty decent. I can see without zooming in that there's some kind of AI processing artifacts, and it's a little softer overall. It depends what you're using the image for. I think for social media this is probably good enough. If you're looking for a truly clean image, I think 800mm might be pushing it a bit far. This one's at 400mm, so that's a 2x digital crop. Usually these sensors do quite well at 2x, but again, I can see some AI weirdness. I'm looking around here. Yeah, there's some strange AI image processing that's going on this brick wall in the background. But if you're not pixel peeping, I think that's a pretty great shot. Love the softness of the background. Love the sharpness of the foreground. It's pretty epic that you can take that kind of shot with a phone. Shame about the sharpening artifacts. Yeah, what can you do? This is another one at 800mm, so we'll definitely see some AI wigglies, I think. I just love the vibe of this shot. Nice lighting on this one. And it is pretty sharp in the foreground. Actually, the bokeh's a little strange in the back, but overall, I think that's a perfectly usable image. I'm happy with that. I think that looks pretty great. This is another shot at the native 200mm focal length. Tiny bit of motion blur, but the deer was walking. I do like look at the individual hairs sticking off the chin of the deer. It's pretty cool. It's got its antlers growing back, which is something I've not seen before, really. I don't think. Yeah, aside from a little bit of motion blur, pretty great shot, I think. So this one's at maximum zoom, the maximum preset zoom you get on the buttons. And of course, it's not going to look anywhere near as good as the native focal length. But it still looks pretty decent. A lot of this texture has kind of been invented by the AI image processing. But at a glance, you'd really struggle to tell. And again, absolutely love the compression. Such a shallow focal plane with a small subject. It just looks really nice. So I think this is quite an important comparison. This is taken at 200mm with the telephoto adapter. You can tell by the compression that out of focus foreground and background. But really, you need to kind of push it to about 800mm to get a usable shot. And it doesn't look as good, but it's still not too bad. However, when we compare it to shots taken without the telephoto adapter, the difference is plain to see. This is 230mm, so a little over the 200mm focal length, but close enough. You lose a lot of that compression. Most of the shot remains in focus. And I think we may have missed focus slightly on this one. That's not really the point. What we want to look at is the 800mm shot. And yeah, it's just a lot softer, a lot less detailed. Still impressive, I think, for a phone. But compare that to this one, and I think the telephoto adapter makes things look way better. Now, I think I've done enough talking, so I'll show you a few more shots just so you can see them, and then we'll get on to my final thoughts. Right, so I'm filming this on the ultra wide lens, which is now kind of like a main lens. It's got a really big sensor and obviously autofocus, but I can't see myself right now, so I don't know what my framing's like. Apologies if it looks a bit weird. So far, really impressed with both the photography kit, the camera grip, and the Zeiss Teleconverter. The grip makes everything feel much more ergonomic, and it's very fun to shoot with. I don't think it's a gimmick, I actually do enjoy using it. And the same for the Teleconverter. I honestly thought that was the kind of thing you'd try out, you'd be like, hey, that's pretty cool, and then you'd leave it at home. I don't think so. I think if you're ever trying to shoot wildlife, maybe street photography, definitely stage shows and things like that, where you just need to get closer to your subject, it is really good. Stabilization, a little bit of an issue, for video at least, and focusing can be hit and miss, but I do think it's absolutely worth the effort, and I think it's worth the cost of entry. So stay tuned, we're going to have a lot more content about this phone coming up very soon. We obviously need to test it in low light conditions, as well as give some more attention to the actual lenses that are on this phone. So get subscribed if you're not already, and I will catch you in the next one. Toodles.